Welcome back, friends, to another weekly video. Last week I made a video on global currencies, and as I was looking around at financial markets all over the world, I realized something. There's something I have not talked about on this channel before. When I look at emerging markets around the world, there is a country that interests me more than any other place in the world. And that country is India. So I wanted to make a short video today on why India is so important. For those of you who watch my channel, you know I never give investment advice on this channel. If you're thinking of investing your money in an Indian business, or in any business for that matter, please go talk to a financial advisor in your city. However, no matter what your job is in business, it's important to have this discussion about what is happening in emerging markets. There are four main emerging markets that are commonly referred to as the BRIC nations. BRIC stands for Brazil, Russia, India, and China. In 2010, people started including South Africa in the acronym and calling it BRICS. Now, I could spend a lot of time talking about each one of these countries. Each country has problems, and each one has experienced huge successes. To understand the impact of these emerging markets, let's look at GDP metrics for countries around the world. Quick tip, GDP stands for Gross Domestic Product. So GDP is the economic activity within the borders of a country. And a simplified way of thinking about this is it's a combination of everybody's income. So in accounting terms, if a country had an income statement, this would be the number at the bottom of that income statement every year. If we look at the list of the top 10 countries by the size of the economy, we see that China, India, and Brazil are included in the list of the top 10 largest economies in the world. This is how big these countries have become. And what is amazing about these emerging markets is how fast they have grown. They were nowhere near this size 20 years ago. It's a remarkable economic story, but the real question is, what is the economic outlook going forward? So when we look at India, they are already the 5th largest economy in the world. But that's not what catches my attention. When I look at India, what crosses my mind is I think to myself, what incredible potential. India has so much more they can grow in all different areas of business, in manufacturing, in services, in technology, and in innovation. This is a country with an enormous population of smart, talented, hardworking people that get results. I think the problem with India is they're not thinking big enough. India could be the next global superpower if they make the right moves. And I'm going to tell you in this video what the right moves are, because they're actually very simple. I look at things from the perspective of business history. And when we look back through history, we know the things that cause economies to grow. In every case, economies grow by embracing free market principles. So if we were to take all of the BRIC nations and line them up in a row, India would stand out as being able to embrace free market principles. So just look at Russia and China. These are two communist countries. Now granted, they've opened up their economies a lot to market forces, which has led to significant economic growth. But they're still communist countries. And I'll give you an example of this. China strongly manipulates its currency. So if you do business in China, you're using currency that is being manipulated by the central government. It's not valued by the free market. Now that's just one example of this, but there's a whole lot of other areas in business that India could stand up and say to the world, India is open for business, and that if you come and bring your investment dollars and invest in India, that India embraces free market policies. Now this sounds really simple. To business people like you and me, this is almost like a no-brainer. But it really isn't that simple, because if you look at small countries around the world, this really isn't happening because it's actually a difficult decision. What we're really asking for here is for these small governments to give up more control to allow the free market to flourish. You're giving more freedom to business leaders to operate their businesses according to the needs of the free market. So I realize this is a big request here. This is not an easy undertaking. But let me tell you about business strategy. The key to business strategy is that you're looking at your strengths, but not just any strengths. You're looking at the strengths of things that you can do that other people have a difficult time competing with you on. So in the case of India, let me give you a really good example. Intellectual property rights. This is an area that India can compete in that China will never be able to compete with you on. So I talk with a lot of US companies and a lot of US companies that do manufacturing in China. And their biggest concern always is intellectual property rights. Because they think, if I'm going to bring my technology into China, it's going to get stolen. Or there's going to be no way that I can protect my intellectual property. And this has to do because China, again, is a communist country with a completely different understanding of property rights. And so for a whole host of reasons that have to deal with China's history and social policy and political structure, China will always have a hard time competing on the issue of intellectual property rights. And that's an area where India can do a really good job at. India should be looking for ways to streamline their intellectual property processes, to strengthen their policies. This is an area where India can compete, and it's so important. India, this is your silver bullet. The reason I am making this video today is because right now is a critical moment for the future of India's economy. Right now, this is your moment. The whole world is dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic. The whole world is in chaos. And a lot of US businesses and global businesses are rethinking their strategies about China. Should we continue doing business in China? This is an opportunity for India to stand up and be an example on the world stage and say, hey, we as India, we stand for the free market. We stand for democracy. We stand for human rights, and we stand for business. So if you bring your business to India, we will deliver results. Let me end by talking to you a little bit about my philosophy on business. The way you win in business is you look at your strengths. You look at the products and services that you can offer to the world to make the world a better place. And India, you have a lot of strengths. You have the opportunity right now, while the world is in crisis, to be a beacon of light for your region of the world. I don't know what the future is going to bring. I can't predict what is going to happen to the future of India's economy. But I can tell you this. In my opinion, out of the emerging markets that are in the world today, India remains my favorite. I'm Zach from Wolves in Finance. Namaste.